What is up, y'all? It's Ryan Morimoto here, and this is the show Living Better. Say goodbye to anxiety, stress, and the pains of life, and welcome to a happier and healthier you. And today we have a reaction video, and this is to people like Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson, who is a psychologist, for 5 tips to relieve stress. Now, whether you love or hate these people, I think we can pull out some good insights from them. So let's put everything aside. Sometimes with social media, maybe we don't believe the same things people do politically, but we can still get good insights out of them. So let's dive in right here, get started, and see what they have to offer us today.
Well, let's say you've got a kid and you want the kid to improve. You don't set them a bar that's so high that it's impossible for them to attain it. You take a look at the kid and you think, okay, this kid's got this range of skill. Here's a challenge we can throw at him or her that exceeds their current level of skill, but gives them a reasonable probability of success. There's something you could do that you are regarding as trivial, that you could do, that you would do, that would result in an actual improvement, but it's not a big enough improvement for you, so you won't lower yourself enough to take the opportunity.
Incremental.
So incremental steps. They're about to go into an example here, but I just want to kind of summarize what we've heard so far, right? Is that, you can set a goal, and it could be in whatever sphere. It could be fitness, which they're about to talk about. It could be emotional health. It could be business or work. And what they're talking about here is how to take a huge goal and break it down to like 1%. Something that's achievable. Making $1 billion in your first year of business is probably not a realistic goal. But if you can say for yourself, well, can I make $10 this week? Or if it's weight loss, and you're 200 pounds and you want to be 170 pounds, it's hard to say lose 30 pounds in a week. But if you're like, okay, lose 1 pound in the next week, that's a reasonable goal. So let's watch this example just to see how they break it down for us.
Steps.
Yes, and
so this is also what is achieved through exercise. It's one of the most important.
Yeah. Well, what do you do when you go and lift weights?
Yeah.
You don't go and, like, if you haven't
Right,
bench pressed before, you don't put 400 pounds on the damn bar and drop the bar through your skull. But there's a humility in determining what it is that the wretched creature that you are can actually manage. Aim low, and I don't mean don't aim, and I don't mean don't aim up. You can set yourself a goal that you can attain, and there's not going to be much glory in it to begin with. That will require.
So let's talk a little bit about this, right? Let's dive into this a bit. And I want to tell y'all a funny story real quick. So setting the goals and incremental steps, like they just talked about, weightlifting. I've told this story before, but this is how I tore my shoulder. Like when our ego gets involved, when we think we're high and mighty, we may try to go from lifting 5 push-ups or lifting 100 pounds and we're doing good. It's like, okay, let's go for 100 push-ups, or let's double the weight. And that's actually how I ended up tearing my shoulder, trying to bench press really hard and be the strong guy in the gym, right? You see the people around you, you're like, okay, that guy just lifted a lot. Let me show people what I got. That's how we can hurt ourselves. And honestly, for stress, stress is basically hurting yourself mentally, right? And so if we put a goal that's way too high out there, right? It's like we're trying to lose 30 pounds in a week, or like we talked about, trying to make too much money, or if we're in a state of anxiety and depression, and all of a sudden we want to be like the social butterfly that's doing everything. Maybe that goal's too high, right? Maybe our goal, instead of saying that we're going to go to a party, is too much social anxiety. Maybe it should be, let's start with texting one person. Let's start with one phone call, and we can make incremental steps upwards to get there. And we don't necessarily have to, shoot for the moon and expect to get there. But, like the saying goes, 1% a day, and you're already going to be over 100% improvement by the end of the year. So let's take this a step further and see, okay, if we set a 1% goal, something that is achievable, how do we actually achieve that goal? Let's see what they have to say next.
Minimal behavioral change to decrease the probability that it will happen again. It's mental hygiene, fundamentally. Yes?
When you say that these frames are scalable,
yeah,
there's multiple at the same time?
We'll get to that. That is the next question. It's because they don't exist in isolation. So, and that's another thing frequently, when you hear behavioral accounts of cognitive processes, they generally only focus on as if it's an isolated thing. It's not. It's scalable. It's scalable a bunch of ways. It's scalable temporally, because what you do now is associated with what you'll do tomorrow, and that with what you'll do next week, and so forth. So it has to be scalable temporally, and it's also scalable socially, right? So
I laugh sometimes when I see Jordan Peterson. I mean, I personally like the guy. Some people don't like him, but it's really funny when he uses these big words, and maybe that's what it is. It doesn't resonate with some people because he uses these words like, you know, temporally, or and he gets in his way where he will say, like, you know, the cognitive process of the temporal universe means that astronomically from a vertical point, you know, sometimes you're just like, what are you saying, man? So like, let's break that down, right? Is okay. So we had the 1% goal, right? If we're going from 200 pounds, you know, our 1% goal is getting to 198 pounds, 2 pounds, right? And it's like, okay, in order to achieve that goal, how do you get there? What's the minimal change behaviorally you can do to get there? So what can that look like for working out? You know, instead of trying to get to the gym for 2 hours every day, which may be unsustainable if you're just starting working out, maybe it's, I'm going to take a 10-minute walk around the block or a 20-minute walk around the block. And that is the minimal behavioral change to move you towards that goal. It's more important to do that every single day, right, than to go and work out tomorrow for 2 hours and then not work out for a week and then expect to lose 2 pounds, right? Instead, if you're walking around the block for 20 minutes every day, you're more likely, that behavior is more likely to stick with you for a longer term period of time than to set yourself a goal or a behavior that's so high and so hard to change, right? And if we're talking about anxiety, we're talking about social anxiety, you know, it may be like, okay, I want to be able to, you know, go out there and go to social functions every weekend. But, you know, if you're staying home every day, that might be, and not talking to anybody, that might be like a really hard goal to get to, right? And so what Peterson's actually saying, right, is that, you know, if you have to change a behavior, what's the minimal change? What's the minimal change? So if you're not texting anybody and you're having social anxiety, maybe that's the minimal change, is to just text one friend every day. Or maybe, you know, if you're texting people but you're not getting on a phone call, maybe that's the minimal change. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to, okay, this Saturday I'm going to go out, you know, to the party and talk to 50 people and, you know, get all their phone numbers and start, you know, being a social creature. No, it's like, what's the smallest change to get you to stick towards that goal? If you're trying to have less social anxiety, right? The smallest change might be a text message, it might be a phone call, it might be a one-on-one, you know, hang out with friends. Maybe, you know, one to five is too many. Hanging out with 5 people might be too much. So maybe you're doing 1-to-1 for a little while. Whatever the minimal change is to get you to that 1% improvement is where we want to get to. So let's see what they have to say next.
there's variability for a reason, you know, and then the more neurosis prone, the more kids more prone to negative emotion, they're going to suffer from a higher proclivity for depression and anxiety later in their life, and that's the price they pay for their threat sensitivity. But if you take those kids and you really encourage them to explore voluntarily instead of facilitating their proclivity to hide themselves, you can tilt them up into the normal range for negative emotion. First.
So I know this is an example about children, but it actually, in my opinion, pertains to average adults as well, or, you know, anybody in that range. And the example here is, you know, being able to use encouragement in order to get a change in behavior, right? In order to get a change in emotional response, right? So if you're setting the 1% goal of going to work out, or, you know, improving your social anxiety, and then you find out your behavior is to text one person every day or walk around the block for 20 minutes, right? After you do that activity, it's important to give yourself encouragement. You know, it's important to give yourself the nice little hug or the pat on the back, or, you know, whatever the encouragement may be, because that positive reaffirmation will help you in the long run. And, you know, we can talking about psychology. I think Jordan Peterson's even talked about this. You know, habits, right? Behavior changes, they stick with the reward system. That's the reason why we have a habit. And there's an example of Pavlovian dog, right? So what was Pavlov's experiment? You had a dog, right? And you would ring a bell, ding, 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 and then food would come out, and then the dog would be able to eat. You know, after the course of time, after a few days, weeks, months, whatever it may be, over time, the dog starts understanding that when it hears the bell, it's going to get food, right? So you can imagine after maybe a week, when the dog knows that food's going to come out, it starts salivating, right? Start salivating. And what they did was is after a period of time, they would ring the bell, and then the dogs would just start salivating, even if there was no food. So very similarly to habits and behaviors is, you know, if you reward yourself over and over and doing something again, you're going to want to do the behavior. You're going to be more encouraged. So set the 1% goal, right? Find the minimum behavior change that you're going to do, and then encourage yourself along the way. Let's go into the next step on what they say could help us.
The way out of tribalism is not to never join a tribe. You actually have to join a tribe as you mature, right? Because what happens is, first of all, you're an infant, and then you have your parents to make a relationship with. But then when you move from your parents, you have your tribe, you have your group. Maybe it's the music you listen to, it's the gang you hang around with, whatever. You have to be socialized into the tribe. You have to, because otherwise you stay a dependent infant.
So, you know, I know we're not in like 1500s and in these small tribes and everything anymore, but in reality, we do still have our tribes, right? We have like our family, our work circle, our friend circle. We have these tribes around us. And the important thing here is that we are social creatures. You know, some people do like to be alone a little bit more, but at the end of the day, we interact with people consistently. So whoever we're interacting with is our tribe, right? And so we got to understand that social influence really does play a factor. What other people say to us, it does impact us. So if we're trying to work out more, right, and people are like, wow, you know, that's awesome that you're working out more. I go on runs every Saturday. Do you want to go with me? Right? That's encouragement. And that will encourage us along towards our goal of losing weight. Or if, you know, we might have social anxiety. So it's like, you know, I used to have social anxiety too. You know, I know it might be a lot to go out and try to party or together or whatnot, but you know, if you just want to talk, you know, once a week or once every other week on the phone, like I'm open for that. That's encouragement from your tribe. But on the other hand, if your tribe is saying things like, you're trying to lose weight again, like you've never done that over the past 10 years. Why do you think things are going to change? Or somebody's like, yeah, you know, I know you have anxiety. Like you won't even go and talk to that guy over there or go talk to that girl. Like what's going to change? That's not a tribe that's helping you towards your goal. And it may be hard at times to think, you know, like, oh man, I've had these friends for like 10 years. But if they're constantly putting you down, then, you know, and you're trying to move in another direction, you really may need to change your circle, the people around you, your tribe that encourages you, right? You know, maybe you have to join a crew that goes out and works out every day or every weekend. Or, you know, you might have to join a support group that can talk things out about your anxieties. Whatever it may be, you need to find the tribe around you, right? Because if we're doing the 1% goal, right, to getting better, and then we're finding the minimal behavior change to get there, and then we're encouraging ourselves, you know, giving ourselves the nice pat on the back, then we also need that encouragement from other people. Not only are we encouraging ourselves, but if other people are encouraging us, you know, that all together helps push us towards that goal. We can't be encouraging ourselves and then have people laughing at us, because now, you know, we're trying to bring ourselves up, other people are trying to bring us down. We need everything to be moving in the same direction. So that's the next tip. Let's see what they have to say next.
Many studies end up not published, but it was very interesting. Well, because most of your ideas aren't any good. And how do you know that? Well, try starting a business. The probability that you're going to fail is extremely high. Most people who end up with a successful business have failed multiple times, because it's very hard to figure out what the market needs this moment. It's really hard, and so you'll flail around trying to hit that target. And if you're creative, you're going to come up with a lot of ideas, but that doesn't mean they're good.
Ooh, that's a lot to unpack right here, right? And that might be hard to hear. And I can speak truthfully for myself to say that's true for me. I've tried to do a lot in business, and I may have 100 ideas, and where I find myself the most stressed, right, is if I think this idea should work and it doesn't work, I can self-shame myself, right? Give myself a lot of anxiety and stress. Like, why didn't this work? Was it because I didn't try hard enough? Am I not smart enough? Did I not do enough? And that overthinking can lead to the stress and anxiety. And I think what we have to understand here is that failure is going to be a part of life. We should learn how to accept it and still be able to encourage ourselves along the way, right? So step one, find the 1% goal, right? 1% better. Step two, you find the minimal behavioral change. I want to lose 2 pounds, so I'm going to go walking every day, right? Step three, we encourage ourselves. After we're done with the walk, we smile in the mirror and we say, good job, Ryan, good job. Step four, we find, the tribe or the social group around us that will help encourage us along the way. And then step five is just to set our expectations and understanding that there will be failures, there will be setbacks, but we can always move forward. Just because there's an obstacle in the way doesn't mean you can't go around it, doesn't mean you can't go over it, doesn't mean you can't move it out the way. Obstacles are there for a reason, to help us grow. So if we take this back to the losing weight example, right, we may have an idea that it's like, okay, I've been losing, 1 to 2 pounds a week, every week for the past month. If I double my exercise, I should be able to start losing 4 pounds a week. And if the week goes by and we only lose 2 pounds again, that doesn't mean we failed. Just because that idea didn't work doesn't mean that we're still not making progress or we can't get around it. But maybe in addition to working out, we have to look at dieting. There's just a new idea that we can try and we can work on. And same thing for social anxiety, right? We might start moving forward and start texting people every day, but then somebody might not respond to you, right? You might set an appointment for 5 p.m. to get on a phone call with a friend, and you call them and they may not answer. But that doesn't mean that you can't move forward again, right? That doesn't mean that you should stop your goal. So let's kind of sum this up, right? Whether you love or hate the guy, Jordan Peterson, I think he has some insightful things. If we could push aside the politics, push aside the big fancy crazy words of neurotic thinking, if we push all that aside and we pull out the golden nuggets, right? What are the 5 tips to relieve this stress? 1, set the 1% goals, small achievable goals. Step 2, be able to do the minimal behavior change to get us towards that goal. Step 3, use self-encouragement along the way as we start to do these new behaviors that drive us towards this goal. Step 4, make the tribe or the social group around you be able to help you towards this goal rather than discourage you. And step 5, make sure we understand that failure is a part of life. There will be setbacks, and to keep a strong mindset through it. We can't stress out about these things. We can't have anxiety about it. These things are a part of life. We can just learn and adapt. And that's what I have for you today. If you like this video, click subscribe for more like this. Drop a comment below, maybe on the 1% change that you want to make in your life or the support that you may need. And if you have a friend who you feel might benefit from this, be sure to share this. Subscribe for more. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.